Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the Now Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Nadine Wong. I would like to let you know that today's show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic. Today we have another distinguished gentleman. He is a man with great accolades. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to welcome to the Now Talk Show, Mr. Dwayne Beckford. Mr. Dwayne, please join us on the Now Talk Show.
Good evening, everyone. How are you, Dr. Wong?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I cannot complain. I woke up this morning with all my faculties in order, so that's half the battle right there. So I'm in good spirits.
Well, I could tell that. I read your bio and what a distinguished gentleman you are. And
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you took the time, which is the most important thing you could offer to anyone, to come on the Now Talk Show to express yourself as a man and to speak of your trials, of course, your triumph, and basically where you are right now. So without further ado, Mr. Beckford, please tell us, who are you? What is your background?
Well, my background, my parents are from Jamaica, so I'm of Jamaican descent. I've
Mhm.
born here in Canada, lived here my whole life. I have two amazing daughters who are now 17 and 15, so they're kind of my whole world. And the reason why I do everything that I do, I'm a financial professional by day. I help families and educate families as it relates to how money really works today, especially in the Black community, which is really at the core of my passion and my mission, is to really educate our community, because I recognize this is a major gap in terms of our development as a community is in the areas of how we manage our finances. But aside from that, I am a writer, I'm a poet and spoken word artist. I love to act as well. I do a lot of theater acting and some singing within my church and otherwise. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Okay, so I got the nutshell,
Mhm.
but we're gonna crack that nut because I need
Okay.
to hear more. There's so much potency. You're an artist. You're a writer. You're spoken word. So please,
Mhm.
please. So let's go back. Your parents are from Jamaica. Are you from
That's
a home of both parents? What was that like growing up?
So I grew up in a single parent home. My mom raised me. My
Mhm,
dad, unfortunately, was not in my life during my formative years. My mom, at an early age, believed that somebody else was my father, to put it in a nutshell, to be totally honest with you. And so my biological father was not in my life during my formative years. And so that was challenging. That was something that I definitely wanted, and something that was a source of hurt for me and anger for me, not having him in my life.
mhm,
Um, and I would say that it definitely um, shaped my formative years in terms of feeling like I didn't have any strong male figures in my life. And
mhm,
so that was challenging, because even the person who I thought was my father, he wasn't in my life. So the person that's supposed to be my father wasn't in my life, and the person that I thought was my father was also not in my life. So that was challenging, not having that strong, male presence in my life. But I will say this: I had a phenomenal mother who did everything. I could not have asked for a better mother. So despite the fact that I didn't have a father figure, I always had a mother. When I look back on it, when I think about it, I couldn't be sitting here today talking to you if not for the strong Black woman that my mother is, and everything that she did to, even when I started going left, she never gave up on me and always was there to kind of steer me back to the right path. So I'm
mhm.
thankful that despite the fact that I didn't have my father during my formative years, I had a phenomenal mother who was always there.
Did you find, so you've highlighted the absentee of your dad
Mhm.
and the whole interconnection of a father figure. You're a father. How
Yes.
do you transfer that energy? You talk about the experiences. How do you transfer the energy in terms of not having a father to being a father in to the daughters that you have?
Well, one of the things that I have been blessed with, I would say, in my late teens and into my early 20s, is the Lord would have it that He would bless me with strong male figures in my life that
Hmm.
I could watch and observe and also could talk to. And
Hmm.
so while I didn't have, a father figure in my, young years, my adolescent years, going into my late teens and my early 20s, I had father figures, other men around me, strong men around me that
Mm-hmm.
that I could see examples of. And I always determined within myself that despite not having father, that was one thing that I would never allow my children to go through, is not having a father. So, where my daughters are concerned, from the day they were born, my life has been about making sure that they always knew where I was. And even though me and their mother didn't work out, it never stopped me from being a strong father, never stopped me from being present. I never had any desire to be every other weekend, 4 day a month type of dad.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very active from the moment they've been born to this day. And, to see us in a room for 2 seconds, you can see the connection that we have with each other. And that is one of the things I'm most proud of, is that I've been able to establish that connection and maintain that connection to the point where they're now 17 and 15, and they know who their dad is, and we have a phenomenal relationship together.
So I sense that you're the kind of dad who obviously passed down positivity. So you have two young ladies
Hmm.
as your daughters. And at some point, I'm pretty sure they're going to come and say and have that talk or present that question. And there's going to be a young man, if there isn't already, coming to the door and says, "Can I take them out?" What
Hmm.
qualities? You tell him to look for, make sure his shoes is clean. Is he supposed to open the door? You know,
Well, I'll be honest with you. My oldest daughter, who's 17, she has a boyfriend.
okay.
Oh, okay, I said it. All right. But to be honest with you, I met him earlier this year, and it was one of those things. My daughters have always, from they were young, have always heard that daddy loves them, and that
Mhm.
they've always had those kind of treatments, opening the doors, pulling chairs, things like that. I've always talked to them. I said, listen, if you don't open that door for you, you don't call
Ah,
him again. If he doesn't, take care of you, or when you go out, pay that bill or what have you, that's not the guy for you. So they've had a phenomenal example from me on how a man should treat a woman. And so it's funny because I had heard about this boy. She didn't want to tell my oldest daughter. She never wanted to tell me about him. I heard from her sister and I heard from her mom that there's this boy kind of lingering around, but she was afraid to bring him to me. So finally, I just reached out to her. I said, Tay, honestly, I trust you, and I believe that I've given you enough to know what to do and what to look for. And I said, I don't want you to be afraid for me to meet this boy. You know me, I'm not going to be hard on him, but I will make sure that he's right for you.
mhm.
And I mean, obviously, as a dad, no one is right for your child, but at the same time, I'm fair. My daughters know this about me. I'm fair. And so I
Right.
actually got to meet him on my birthday. And
Oh,
to my
okay.
surprise, we actually
Mhm.
spent the day together. And to my surprise, I watched him with a keen eye, because prior to being in financial services, I was a private investigator for 15 years. So I have a keen eye.
The eye,
I watched
right.
him all day to see, how he interacts with my daughter and his movements. And
Hmm.
to be honest, he's a good kid. I wanted to, in truth, I wanted to hate him. I said to myself, I'm not going to like him no matter what. But honestly, I watched this young man open doors. I watched how he was careful and just really attentive to my daughter. And to be honest, I see so much of myself in him, and that made me proud. That
Yes,
the
yes.
example that I gave them all these years, that my daughter
Hmm.
would go out and see a young man with similar qualities and choose him to be in her life. So I'm very happy about that.
Wow, that is good. But my dad was make sure his shoes is clean. That says a lot
Yes,
about his character.
it does.
So
It does.
that's absolutely amazing, and obviously you've done a great job, because the Word of God says you teach a child, raise a child the way they ought to grow, and it won't they won't depart from it. And
That's right.
it's definitely an example of you basically, offering them good food. So you shared about the absentee of your dad, and
Right.
when I how you express the joy of injecting this positivity into your children, into your daughters. I would like you to take us, your audience, to the emotion of the trials that you experience, not having a dad. Your mom is there, will always be there. However, the absentee of your dad, if it's possible, could you highlight some of the emotion that you were feeling, in terms of getting all the information, but of course not pleasant information, in terms of acceptance and awareness of a dad?
Yeah. I grew up in a space where, um, when I really think about it, I saw a lot of other kids around me with dads. The neighborhood that I
Mhm.
lived in, I saw, regardless of ethnic background, I saw, fathers with their dad. And it was something that I greatly wondered, why not me? Where's my dad? And, there were moments where I had my biological dad in the picture, and they stand out so crystal clear to me. It's not
Mhm.
that he wasn't in the picture, but he wasn't allowed to be in there. He wasn't, I shouldn't say allowed, he wasn't able to be the father that he wanted to be. So my dad, my biological father, was not someone who didn't want to be in my life. He wanted to be in my life. And again, my mom being young, him being young, they just didn't work.
Mhm.
I come from a religious or a Christian background, and they were kind of pushed together in their teens, kind of pushed together at a young age where they really didn't have an opportunity to develop that relationship. And so my mom being young, made a mistake. She thought my father was somebody else, and that person was just not a father to me. But my biological father, there were moments where he was able to get in there, and he took me to a baseball game, or he took me out and he did certain things with me. And because they were so few, they stand out to this day as being so big. And in the absence of those, it was challenging because I would play basketball or play sports. I would do certain things, and I would see other kids and their father there. And it was so heartbreaking to me that my father couldn't be there. Or
Mhm.
where was my father? Where was my dad in those moments? And, not
Did you have the
realizing.
opportunity to ask where your dad was?
Probably, but to be honest, I didn't know at that age. I didn't know how to ask.
Okay.
I didn't understand all of that. And all I knew was that this person that wanted to be my dad, I understood it that he wasn't my dad, and the
Okay.
person that I understood to be my dad was not in the picture. And
Okay.
so that, looking back on it, that created anger within me, and not really knowing why I was angry, but knowing that there
Mhm.
was something innately missing, and
Right.
and not knowing how to channel that. So to be honest, it led to me getting into fights. It led to me, getting into trouble with a lot at a young age, stealing, doing different, this acting out of emotion that I couldn't understand. I didn't know how to properly channel or express, and not really having that. And
Mhm.
so for a long time, it was like that. But again, credit to my mom, she never gave up, even though she may not have understood, because I never expressed to her mom, where's my dad, or where's dad. I didn't know how to express it or to say that, but it
Mhm.
came out in my behavior. And one of the things that, to be honest, really saved me was when I hit grade 7, I went to a new school, and for the first time I had a Black teacher, and she recognized my talent in the arts, and she redirected that energy into acting. So at
Mhm.
age maybe 12 or 11, she redirected that. And my first role in acting was playing Dr. Martin Luther King in a Black History Month production. And
Okay.
that kind of was the start of the change for me in terms of redirecting that negative anger of an absent father into something different. And it led me into writing, and it led me into singing and doing all these different
Mhm.
things. But to answer your question, it really, not having my father really impacted me in a tremendous way on a
Mhm.
negative side, and just seeing myself as someone without that father, and seeing the world of people who had fathers for whatever reason. And at that time, I saw other kids with their father and wondered, why
Mhm.
not me?
So how did that encourage you to be in relationship, or did it revert you from being in a relationship?
When you say relationship, what do you mean in terms of like a romantic relationship or?
Romantic relationship, because you talk about your energy being channeled in the arts and so on. So that's a social relationship. But in terms of trusting someone, like
Mhm.
a male figure, a person of authority, to
Mhm.
come close to you, did you have a challenge with that?
I did struggle with authority,
Hmm.
especially male authority, I would say, and just really not having good, strong connections with males until probably my late teens, early 20s, to be honest with you. But in terms of like romantic relationships, that didn't hinder me in terms of my interactions with women. Again, I had a strong mother. So having that interaction with a female was already there, my mom
Hmm.
being that first woman in my life, really.
Yeah.
But I would say that it was challenging with male for a while.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So what type of challenge did you have interacting with male, knowing that the primary male as your father was not there? What kind of trials did you go through with that?
Just not knowing how to interact. Like I've always naturally been able to interact very well with women or females.
Hmm. Yeah, your
But
mom was there. Hmm.
yes, but for whatever reason, when I think about my adolescent years, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, even into my early teens, just not having that ability to really be able to talk to other boys. And even at that point, I moved into a neighborhood that was predominantly Black, and seeing a lot of other Black boys not have their father as well. And so just really trying to struggle through, what is a man supposed to be? How does a man talk to another man? And
Mm-hmm.
just that dynamic was just very, very fuzzy and confusing and often awkward. Just talking to another brother and feeling comfortable in his presence, physical connection. And obviously, we'll talk a little bit about it. Obviously, I went through some abuse in that area. And so it was just very challenging to interact and connect with other men.
Right. So, are you comfortable highlighting the type of abuse? Because sometimes when you're in a situation like that, the option is you have to join an organization in terms of protection and a father figure. Were you ever allured by that? And a lot of times there is that initiation that you have to be a part of or complete in order for you to be a part of a fatherhood. Were you ever introduced to anything of that sort?
So I grew up in an area in Toronto, was government housing at the time, was an area called Jungle back in the day. That's what they used to call it. It's Lawrence Heights area. And I would
Okay.
say that there were opportunities for me to get involved with gang activity, but thankfully I never did. Again, having a strong mother
Okay.
that redirected me often into activities within the church and even within the community. I
Mm-hmm.
found basketball. I found basketball at a very young age, and basketball became a great passion for me as well as the arts. And so that kind of steered me away from that side of things. So I can't say that I ever got involved really in any sort of drug or gang related activity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did go through some sexual abuse as a young man. First by a woman at around the age of 5. A
Mm-hmm.
babysitter sexually abused me, for lack of a better term. And it wasn't until later, even at that time when I went through that, I didn't even understand what was happening. But I was introduced to sex at a very, very young age.
Mm-hmm.
First seeing, dirty magazines in the garage from my father at the time. And then obviously having this happen with the babysitter. It wasn't until many years later, till probably about 8 or 9, when things got caught up with her and they started to go back and they started to realize, okay, I was one of the kids that she babysat. And when they came and I sat with the counselor and we went through it, they realized that I had also suffered at her hands.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, I would say maybe between 8 and 9, even in the midst of going through all of that, one of my mom's boyfriends, his son,
Mm-hmm.
we would spend a lot of time together. He was maybe 5, 6 years old. He was in his teens, and he also sexually abused me. And that, I would say, also contributed to my not being able to connect quite right with males for a very long time, because again, that was a broken trust. When I really
Right.
began to realize what it was, here was another man who I looked up to that had let me down. And so for a little while I even struggled with my sexuality and wondering, okay, what is sex, because it had been so distorted and so confused to that
Mm-hmm.
point, first with a woman, then with a man, at an age when that should have been the last thing I was learning about or even thinking
Right.
about. And
Mm-hmm.
so for a while there, I was confused. But I would say by the time I hit teenagers and I walked into grade 9, I was pretty sure I was all about women. So and I've kind of never looked back from that standpoint. So thankfully there, that confusion kind of cleared itself up. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say that definitely led to some challenges as it relates to me interacting and relating with other men. But
Mm-hmm.
again, as Lord would have it, coming out of my teens and into my early 20s, through church and different things I did, I had an opportunity to connect with really good brothers, really good men
Mm-hmm.
who allowed me to build trust and showed me how to be a man and also interact with other men in a safe space, in a healthy place. And that led me to become a big portion of the man I am today.
So they led by examples, and these are
Yes.
men in the church
Yes. Predominantly men in the church and men in the community.
community.
Mhm.
So can I just have you take a moment and just say hello to your mom? In that, mom, I really appreciate you, because this is a safe platform for you to express yourself, and
Mhm.
it's a platform, as you know, for men, and
Yeah.
often men are not given a safe platform, or in the sense of expressing yourself, and sometimes that come with tears,
Mhm.
and it's such a great myth that when you cry you're weak,
Right.
but on the opposite, you have to cry, because even Jesus himself cried.
That's
And
right.
that's a restoration of strength. So please shout out your mom.
Hmm. Well, I hope she's watching. She knows I'm doing this interview today, but I'm so thankful for my mom. And mom, if you're watching, I want you to know, you already know, I love you so much. And, despite everything, you know that me and you have come from a long way. And there's so many stories
I
that
can
we
see
could
your mom.
share. Oh, man. Oh, you can see her. She's there. Okay. So she knows, and if you're watching, I love you, mom. Thank you for never giving up on me, because there was many times when people said, "Give up on him. He's no good. He's a bad seed. He's gonna end up in jail. He's gonna be a menace to society." And you never, not even for a minute, flinched, never wavered.
Hmm.
You stuck by me all the way through, even to this day. There's literally, and we'll talk about it obviously as we go through the interview, but there's things that I've gone through, and my mom never, never.
So
She's always been there, no matter what. Always had my back through every trial, through every situation. Has always had my back,
so
and I love
please,
you for that, mom. I appreciate you.
mom, we love you for that. We love you for just being a great strong woman, a black woman that saw your seed as the as a blessing, and no matter what, you harvested, and we salute you for that, mom. So if you could share with us, you're getting love on Facebook here. If you could share with us and highlight the you've gone through the trials and you've itemized some trials. Tell us how you went from the trials into the triumph to the financial advisor, spoken words, having all the confidence, and with your partner today. I mean, take us on that journey.
Well, to be honest, I have to give all honor to God. God has, in every season, and I've been through a lot, but in every season, God has provided an outlet. God, it would just be my mom or somebody, a mentor, something. Someone has always been there for me to have a place of release, a safe space where I could talk it through and
Hmm.
really understand it. And I've had, as I said, I've had a great circle of brothers over my life who we've always had an environment where we could just talk and hold each other accountable and really speak life and truth and love to each other. And that's been a great source. I've done a lot of things, but I failed a lot, especially in relationships. I've had, two failed marital situations, but I've
Hmm.
always learned. Every situation I've learned from, I've grown from. 4 years ago was a big turning point in my life. I working as a bouncer at a nightclub, I got shot,
Hmm.
and almost lost my life in that situation. But coming out of that,
Where were you shot?
I was shot in the stomach. And
Okay.
so, and even in that, if I tell you the story, it's only the grace of God. But
I would like to hear what the grace of God has done, and so would our audience, please.
okay. So 2016 was probably the most challenging year of my life, in
Hmm.
that I was going through a separation. I had recently separated from my wife, and in the midst of that, just trying to make ends meet and be able to provide for my daughters, I took a job as a bouncer at a nightclub, something I always said I would never do. But
Hmm.
again, circumstances require you to do certain things, to provide for your family. And so I took a job at a nightclub. And on August 14, 2016, doing a routine round, a couple young people, I don't know what the issue was because I wasn't directly involved in it, but there was a fight that broke out, and one of them got into the club with a gun and they shot, hit me in the stomach. And I just remember lying on that floor and thinking to myself, not like this, this can't be the end of my story. And just thinking about my daughters and thinking, God, like, I don't let my daughters grow up without me. Don't let my daughters grow up without their father. And
Hmm.
just, whew,
Wow. That's
it's,
okay. That's okay. Take a breather.
it, I think about it sometimes, and it still gets me emotionally that I could easily not be here, but God.
Hmm.
And I think about 6 weeks later with my mom going to the hospital and just talking with the surgeon, and in that moment realizing that God was in that room with
Hmm.
me the whole way, because we walk in and the surgeon is wearing a shirt that says something whatever the shirt said, I can't remember now, but we knew that he was a Christian.
Okay.
As we started to talk, it just he says this, and I never forget it. He says, you know, I'm a trauma surgeon, and not that getting shot is any way desirable, but the exact angle at
Mm-hmm.
which you got shot is the reason why you're here. Because to how close the guy was that shot me, I should not be sitting here.
Wow.
Even thinking about that night, there were 3 shootings in the city that night, and I'm the only one that survived.
Wow.
So, I look at that and I
Mm-hmm.
realize, okay, God, there must be a reason why I'm still here. And so
Mm-hmm.
coming out of that, I start to look over my life. And if you know my family, you know that for whatever reason, there is purpose and calling on my family's life. Between myself, my brother, and my mom, the enemy has tried to take us out many times. My brother has been in car accidents where he should not be here. If you see the
Right.
car and you see my brother, you're like, how did he come out of that barely unscathed? My mom has had heart stuff of late and different things where our family has been attacked. But for whatever reason, I'm still here. And when I came out of that situation, I said, okay, there must be a reason why all these things in my life, and I've had other near-death situations, I've almost drowned, different things have happened to me. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, there must be purpose in why I'm still here. And I started to this process, this journey. And there was a program through my church called Celebrate Recovery. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a great mentor. I'm going to shout you out. His name is Frank Baker. But he's a gentleman who really helped me walk through all the traumas that I had faced in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and really helped me to finally deal with the emotion behind those things. And when I came out of that situation, I made a decision, and I said, this victory that I feel
Mm-hmm.
over everything that's happened to me in my life, over all the abuse, over all the broken relationships, the things that never worked out, it's not just for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that there is a need. Going through that program, I saw so many broken men, and it really
Yeah.
hit me that, you know what, men, especially Black men,
Mm-hmm.
we are not afforded, especially Black men of Caribbean descent, we are not
Right.
afforded a
Right.
safe space to be able to talk about the things that we go through, the traumas that we faced, abuse, sexuality, all these different things that we go through, because we are taught that we have to be strong all the time. We're not allowed to show emotion. We're not allowed to cry.
Mm-hmm.
That's weak.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that there's such a need for men to know that it's okay, and
Mm-hmm.
that there are other men that have been through what you've been through. And so I made a decision, and I believe that God has purposed me to be able to speak to men in this time, in this season, in this
Mm-hmm.
in this place of the world, that yes, brother, I know you've been through some stuff, and I
Talk to
know that
them.
maybe you've never had a place that you could talk about it, or that you could share it because of fear of being viewed as weak. But you're not
Right.
weak. You're human.
Definitely not.
We
Definitely not.
come with emotions, just like women. We have emotions.
That's
We
right.
hurt. We feel
That's
it.
right.
We
That's right.
cry, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And it's
Mm-hmm.
actually strength when
That's
you're
it.
able to do that. When you're able to release that, it shows that you're in control. You have emotional intelligence. You're able to control, to understand what you're feeling and express it in the moment, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a brother out there who's watching right now, and you're going through it, maybe you've been through some stuff and you've never ever had an opportunity to share that, or be able to express that, I want you to know that there is a safe space here. You can DM me. My information will be provided. Trust me when I tell you, there's nothing more healing than to be able to release the things that the world has thrown at us. And I believe that everything I went through was not meant to harm me, but it was meant to help me. It was meant to push me into this purpose where now I can sit here talking to you triumphant over everything that has come at me, so that I could talk to other men and say, listen, if I can get through it, if I can survive abuse as a child, if I can survive my father not being there, if I can survive, broken relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
still be here and be a strong father despite not making it work with her mom, still being the kind of father that my daughters can look up to, then I know you can do it too. And I can help just by even being a listening ear. So know that you're not alone, and know that it's okay, and that there are safe spaces out there where you can be able to express yourself.
So please use that opportunity to share your contact.
Absolutely. So if you're looking for me on social media, my Facebook is my name. So it's Dwayne. Prophecy is my stage name. So you'll see Dwayne Prophecy Beckford-Allen. On my Instagram, I am only one prophecy. So ONLY1 PROFECI. Or my arts page is also Prophecy Speaks. So PROFECI Speaks, SPEAKS. And then also my business page, which is IMWFG _ Dwayne Beckford, if you're looking for financial services or assistance in financial literacy.
And I also would like, I feel like you have just set the stage to grace us with one of your talent, which is spoken word. So please, Mr. Dwayne Beckford, what you just did,
Mhm.
you have you just set the stage
Mhm.
for men, like-minded men, men who have cried, men who are crying, who were broken and they're broken. And you have just said, listen, I'm a listening ear. And like a magnet to a steel, like positivity to positivity, because even in spite of being broken, there's still positivity within you. So now that you've set that stage, please grace us with one of your positive word to be like a balm of Gilead of healing to those men.
Okay. I have a piece here that I wrote a few months back. Normally, I'm a little bit rehearsed with this stuff, but for in the interest of today, I'm just going to share this piece here.
Okay.
It's actually inspired by another good brother of mine who wrote a similar piece and inspired me to write something along the same lines. So um, it reads, I am understanding from birth, carrying a name that was never supposed to be mine, living a life undefined by two who created me, unsure of their own love, yet somehow love has always defined me, shaped me, inspired me, damn near killed me. As I've pursued its brilliance more often than not unsuccessfully, in vain, I've wasted years and tears, yet still I remain. I am triumph over abuse, meant to confuse, distort, and deceive me, leaving me angry and broken enough to want to die, yet live enough to question why am I here? Does anybody hear the sound of my heart beating like a djembe drum to come out and shout my victory over what was sent to destroy me? My testimony is in my stride and my confidence, yet still vulnerable, strong enough to be emotional. My ethnicity wants to define my masculinity by suppressing so-called feminine energy, but you can't suppress all that God created in me. Perfection, I stand tall and free. I am living, breathing purpose on a journey to bring understanding, a redefining rehabilitation of the melanin masculine created by God to be like God in image and mentality, strong yet sensitive. That's how he created me to be. A son raised by a woman to raise two women with a firm hand but gentle disposition, able to show and express love in all its many expressions, is the example I pray they will follow when choosing their future husbands. I am a cover to my black brother, the confident affirmation of every part of his being, the safe place where his pride is put aside to allow insecurities, vulnerabilities, and even fear to breathe fresh air, free from judgment or misandry. I am the iron sharpening edges dulled by mental slavery, back to your place of authority, reviving divine destiny to the men we are all called to be. I am a son, a brother, a father, and lover of the best part that God took for me to create everything in this world I would ever need. My rib, my wife, my queen. I am.
Wow. And please shout out to your queen.
She's on the call, so I want to shout out my love, Shanika. Our story is incredible. The way God has even brought us together. I am so excited for our future together. You know, I love you with every fiber of my being, and our future is so bright. And so, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for loving me, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you so very much. That is what courage is all about. And you've definitely demonstrated that. So you shared with us the trial, you've shared with us the triumph. Now, tell me a bit about your business. You have a passion for to educate the Black community financially, educate them in terms of financial literacy. So please tell us about your business. And of course, I'm always about promoting. So at the end, if you could actually highlight where they can actually reach out to you in terms of having you even speaking at an event or laying down a program for them. So please tell us about where you are now with the finances uh, business that you have.
Absolutely. So, again, coming out of 2016 and getting shot, one of the things that became very real to me is that I didn't provide as much as I had been present as a father
Mm-hmm.
in terms of legacy, in terms of leaving something behind that if the worst case should happen, that my family, in particular my daughters, will be provided for. And I hadn't done that to that point. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that really opened my eyes. And it's funny how God will use the greatest tragedy to turn you towards your purpose and your destiny. And so maybe a year after getting shot, I had an opportunity to taking a seminar about financial services and money,
Mm-hmm.
and that has opened me up to a new career, which has become a passion and a crusade in terms of being able to educate families on how money really works. And I realized that this is something that's so critical to our community, the Black community, in that we are hard workers, we're intelligent, we're educated,
Mm-hmm.
and the area that we struggle with is not in earning money, but in the management of those resources. And so it became a crusade for me to not only educate our family, but to empower us where money is concerned, so that we could be more powerful. Because the world follows us already. They follow
Mm-hmm.
our culture, they follow our style, everything that we do, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not maximizing that in terms of how we deal with our resources. We don't support each other enough in terms of Black businesses. This is something, it's a narrative that I want to change within our community, that we could be so much more powerful if we work together.
Yes.
And it's been by design that we are at each other and against each other. And that's a conversation for another day. But we have an opportunity today to
Mm-hmm.
write a different story, write a different chapter, where Black communities come together, where we are empowered with the knowledge that other communities are, where money is concerned, to be able to understand where to save, and understand interest rates, and understand debt, and how to manage our debt, and how to understand and determine, wants versus needs, and position our families to succeed where it comes to our money, to be able to protect our families, so that we
Mm-hmm.
can stop being on Facebook with a GoFundMe account
Counts.
because
Right.
we've lost a life, a loved one, and we don't have the resources to put them in the
Mm-hmm.
ground. I say this comedically, that oftentimes when I sit with families, they say, "Oh, I can't afford life insurance, or I can't afford to save."
Right.
I often say, listen, for the price of 2 oxtail dinners, you could be protecting your family. I think it gets people to laugh, but when I sit down and I really show them,
Yes. Yes.
we'll spend $30-$40 on a couple of oxtail dinners, and that same money could provide for our family, could
Right.
create generational wealth, that when we pass,
Mm-hmm.
we're not passing on debt and burden like we
Mm-hmm.
see so much in the community, but we're passing on generational wealth.
Right.
You look at
Right.
other communities, that's what they do. They utilize, things like life insurance. They utilize investments and savings, so that when they pass, they're passing on generational wealth,
Mm-hmm.
so that their families and their communities continue to go forward. And so this is my crusade. This is my passion. A lot of what I do for free. I don't charge to sit with families, because I believe that our community has been at the back for far too long. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
see us move to the front, because we have so many ideas. We've created so much in this world and have not
Mm-hmm.
been able to maximize the
Mm-hmm.
economic impact of those inventions and creations, because we were not educated in the areas of financial literacy. So I am out there every day educating families and individuals on financial literacy and how we can build our community to be the best it can be.
So here's a question, and it's a general question. It is said that in the Chinese community, a dollar, it recycles several hundred times before it actually leaves the community.
Mhm.
However, in our community, the Black community, half the time it doesn't even make entrance into the community.
That's right.
This is your personal uh, advice, opinion. What do you think that the lack is, or the breakdown, or the brainwashes, or the allure is, or what do you think, that based on your experience, your observation?
My observation is that we have been conditioned to not think community. We've been
By whom?
conditioned to. There are many
Where do
systems.
where do you think the Black community get the knowledge from not to want to invest back in the community?
Well, if we look at our history, even through slavery,
Mm-hmm.
we were conditioned to be against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Black man versus black woman, black man versus his children, and so on and so forth. And so now we're at a place in time where you can see within our community, we are conditioned to think about ourselves and ourselves alone.
Mm-hmm.
We were not taught to think community. So I'm gonna do what I can do for me. And in
Mm-hmm.
so doing, oftentimes when I say me, I don't even say family, I say me, because black men, unfortunately, we are absent
Mhm.
grossly absent in our homes and in our families, and that has broken the family structure. So even
Mhm.
from that standpoint, that basic level, our family structure is broken. But
Mhm.
even in the case where that family structure is intact, we are conditioned to think about ourselves. We don't think community. We don't think that the decisions that we make and how we govern our homes impacts the greater community. So when we get paid, we're going to think about it in terms of, you know what? I got to do what's best for me, regardless of where my money is spent. So I've got a budget. I've got to think about, the bills I got to pay. So if the Asian man over here is going to sell me those bananas for 38 cents, and
Mhm.
the black man is over here, he's going to sell for 58 cents. I'm going to go over here, not
Mhm.
realizing that, yes, I'm saving 20 cents,
Mhm.
but I'm also empowering another community.
Mm.
And
Powerful.
we were never taught, or we never realized the impact of that. And so now we have this struggle. This is why you can see why we don't work together. You can see on the same strip mall, there'll be two people selling the exact same thing. A
Yes.
man will be selling oxtail and jerk chicken here.
Yes.
At the other end of the plaza, the same man selling that same oxtail and jerk chicken. We
Hold
will.
on. Do you like oxtail? You keep making reference to oxtail. Do you like oxtail?
I love oxtail, and my
Okay,
mom
carry
makes
on.
the
Carry
best
on.
oxtail anywhere. My mom has a catering company called Q's Kitchen, shameless
Okay.
plug, and she
Okay.
makes the best of everything you want. So get at me if you want more information on that. Hi, Mom. So no, it just really shows that we are not unified, and we are, and
Mhm.
it's something that from slavery we have been
Mhm.
trained to not work together. We see it in our
Mhm.
churches. My dad is a minister; he pastors in the States, and I remember the first time I went to go see him in the States, and we went to his church. It was a corner startup church, and on the four corners of that intersection there was a church, a
Oh
black
wow.
church,
Church. Yes.
preaching the same gospel. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, all four of you are struggling. Why not
Right.
come together?
Together. That's
One
right.
really good church preaching the same
Yes.
gospel. The burden will be less. All of you could take a Sunday. It just made so much sense to me. But that
Right.
highlighted how much our people are not together. And
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the reasons why, even now, in the midst of all this oppression, in the midst of all this racial tension that we see, we can't get on the same page
Mm-hmm.
to really identify what our issues are, because
Mm-hmm.
we all have different agendas and different issues, and we're not working together. And so
Mm-hmm.
what ends up happening is we start out with all this passion and anger, and we're ready to do whatever it takes, but inevitably we get caught up in the little minor stuff, because we're
Mm-hmm.
still at the end of the day thinking about self and protecting my family. We're not thinking about the greater good of our community. And that's why
Right.
I feel like we struggle so much, despite the fact that we've had so much impact on the world, that the world follows so much of our cultures, the way we carry ourselves, the things that we do,
Mm-hmm.
but yet we cannot monopolize that. We cannot, turn that into a benefit for our community. Instead, our gold, our gifts continue to be, stolen and monopolized in other communities, because
Mm-hmm.
we can't get it together and really come together as a community.
So here's a question that came.
Mhm.
A father that, let's call him a workaholic. He provides, but he's never there, compared to a father who never provides. Is he the same person?
Sorry, repeat that one more time. A father that.
A father
Mhm.
who's a workaholic. He provides for his children, but
Right.
he's never there. They never see him,
Mhm.
right? And then you have a father who they've never seen. Is that the same scenario?
It can be, because you can live in the house and not
Mm-hmm.
have a relationship with somebody.
Okay.
And so in a way, it can be the same thing as being
Mm-hmm.
not present. And I would say a lot of men, especially men of Caribbean descent, we're taught, those that are actually present,
Mm-hmm.
we're taught that provision is the way that I show love.
Ah.
I may never give you a hug. I may
Mm-hmm.
never show up at your basketball game,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a roof over your head, and there's
Mm-hmm.
food, and there's clothing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
enough. Not
Mm-hmm.
realizing that we need more than that.
Yes.
And it's tough, but again, that's how we're conditioned to think, that
Mm-hmm.
provision first and foremost is supersedes everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to sit down and coddle you or sit down and do homework with you because I got to go work to make sure there's a roof over this head and there's food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a struggle, and that's where oftentimes mothers get more glory per se than a father because the mother is present, the mother is there,
Mm-hmm.
and making those meals and doing that homework and kissing that child good night at the end of the day. So that mother, the connection is greater there, but the father's is importance is still there, but it definitely can feel like, what, I've had my dad my entire life. He's been there, but I don't know who this man is because he's always working. And I know a lot of stories like that where there's resentment,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't see it. And, I went through that a little bit. My mom worked a lot. My mom worked 2-3 jobs sometimes because it was just me and her. And there was a lot of basketball games that she wasn't able to come to. And there was a lot of,
Right.
plays that she wasn't able to come to. And as a young man,
Mm-hmm.
that made me angry sometimes. That made me feel hurt. And me and my mom have talked about this, but when I became a father,
Right.
even when I got shot, I was working 2-3 jobs. And I realized there were basketball games that I couldn't be at, and there was dance recitals that I couldn't attend. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized, what the struggle that a parent goes through, especially a single parent, in trying to balance being there for your child and putting food on the table. It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. It's not
Right.
easy. So, I as a parent, I recognize it and I know the pain of it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those tough things. But I would say I would rather a father be present but working all the time than never
Mm-hmm.
being there at all. So if I have to choose between the two.
So we have a comment that says father husband role is to provide and to protect.
Hmm.
And do you agree with that? There has to be a balance, was another comment. Work life balance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Work-life balance is so key, and I'm blessed to be in a position now, in
Mm-hmm.
my business that I'm able to coach that team that I
Mm-hmm.
used to these games for, and I'm able to sit. If my daughter doesn't dance anymore, but I was able to sit in a lot of the front rows of those dance recitals because now I'm able to be there. But you know, as a man of God, we're called to be the priest, protector, and provider,
Right?
and so. But in that, I believe that God gives us wisdom that there must be balance. You
Mm-hmm. There
can't
has to be.
you can't be all provider and neglect
Mm-hmm.
the priest and the protector portion. You can't be
Mm-hmm.
all protector and priest and then leave out the provision portion.
Love
So
it.
there's balance to that client the person's comment. There must be balance. You
Mm-hmm.
must find a way to find balance that while you provide, you can also protect by being there and nurture your sons and daughters. They need that. They need us. They need to see us and also have relationship. Relationship is so key. You
Key.
know,
Right.
money is great and provision is great, but a relationship, when a son feels like he can go to his dad and he has that relationship, it
Mm-hmm.
means something. When a daughter has their father present or their mother present, it means something. And that
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes is worth more than anything, any bike you could buy them, any Xbox you could buy them, any material thing you can give them. The best thing you can give them is relationship.
Yep.
And I didn't have a lot growing up, but I tell you this, I wouldn't trade any of what I have with my mom, the relationship I have with my mom, for any material thing, because the relationship that me and my mom have, to be able to talk about literally anything under the sun, I can talk to my mom about. And that relationship means everything. And honestly, I'm blessed because I have a relationship with my biological father, and we can
Mm-hmm.
talk about anything. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that. And that means more to me. Having that now at this stage of my life means more than all the games or the things that we could have done as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing that I have that relationship with my father means everything to me. So I say that to every father that's out there. I understand the struggle. I understand the need to provide first and foremost, but please do not neglect the need for relationship. Your kids need relationship. Your daughters need relationship. They need to know what a man's supposed to look like, and it's not just to provide, because they will grow up and they will marry a man that will only provide and not show them love. They need the
Mm-hmm.
provision and they need the love, and they need to see you as a priest. For those of you who are men of faith, your daughters and your sons need to see you pray. They need to see you worship God, because that's where they're going to come up and that's where they're going to gravitate to. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want for your child, you've got to be the first example of that.
First example. What do you think about forgiveness in terms of forgiving your father and the father figure? Because now you're a father. You said something that is so powerful. You said now that you're a father, you understand why you can't make it to the recitals and all the different things that your kids are involved. And when your father or fathers that are out there who can't do it because they have to provide, there's a sense of resentment and unforgiveness. So in terms of forgiveness, is that something that you encourage the fathers to partake onward as well?
Absolutely. And forgiveness is a two-way street, but at the same time, it's really for the other. It's not for the other person. It's for you.
You, right.
So, for me, I guess the greatest teacher for me was life. There's a lot of things that I didn't understand as a young man in my adolescence and my teen years regarding why my parents couldn't be here, couldn't be there, whatever the case may be. But then you grow into adulthood and you become a parent yourself, and you realize the burden, of trying to. It's not that you don't want to, but again, it's that balancing act, that juggling act, and my heart bleeds for single mothers, especially, who struggle with that. As a financial advisor and an educator, I sit with single mothers all the time, and that's one of the things that literally brings them to tears is the fact that they have to work so much and have very little time with their kids to spend time cultivating relationship, and that builds hurt within the parent. And it also builds resentment within the children because, again, at a young age, they can't understand that. So forgiveness is needed on both sides. And, the thing about forgiveness is really understanding, letting and recognizing that person, the other person, is flawed and they make mistakes. And sometimes the offense is not malicious. Sometimes the offense is out of situation or circumstance.
Good point.
My mom didn't purposely want to miss my basketball games.
That's right.
Circumstance, she had to do what she felt was right in the moment, and that was provide and put food on the table, because without that, I wouldn't be able to do some of these other things. And so I say that, parents, I get it, but forgive yourself. Forgive yourself, because trust me when I know you're doing the best you can, and we've all been there.
Is your biological father in your life right now?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
there was a sense of healing and forgiveness as well,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. So, your kids may not understand it right now, but there's going to come a point in their life where they will. And I say to every parent out there, just continue to do the best you can do. And even if you don't have, because of circumstance, you can't spend as much time as you want, find those moments, those small moments, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a day, where you just talk and let your kids talk, and you just allow relationship to build. You may not be able to be present at everything, but you still have room. Don't have dinner with your kids. If the only time you have is dinner with your kids, don't let the kids be in the other room eating dinner and you're in the other room eating dinner. Utilize that time. Find moments throughout the day. It could be getting ready in the morning. As you're getting ready, you're talking to your child. Find moments, if you can't because of work or other circumstance, find moments where you can build relationship and connection with your children.
Wow, well said. I'm so honored that you took the time to come and express your manhood, your trueness, and your trials and your triumph and where you are right now. Now you have given us your talent as a spoken word artist. Now may I ask you to close us out with your talent as a singer?
Oh man.
Oh man.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that way.
I know.
Oh man. See, I wish you told me I could have prepared a little thing for you.
Okay. That's the now, right?
That's the now.
I'm getting the background for you. Come on.
Let me think here.
Come on.
I'm gonna sing a little bit of this one of my favorite gospel songs from when I was a child. I'll sing a little bit of it. No warm up, no nothing. Lord,
that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
All right, I'm gonna try this song here. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his own, just to rest upon his promise, just to know thus said the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him, and how I prove him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus. Oh, for grace to trust him more.
Oh, oh, for grace to trust. Come on.
Him more.
Yay! Dwayne Beckford, what an honor. You are a poet, you're a writer, you are a man of God, you're a man of word. Word is very powerful. You're a great example. Again, to the woman in your life, your mom, to your special lady as well. These women I know have been great comforter for you. And I just want to say thank you so very much for joining us on the Now Talk Show. And is there anything else you would like to leave us with before we leave?
In closing, I just want to say thank you to everyone that came on. I want to thank again my mom. Thank you for always being in my life. For my lady, thank you. I love you. And just I want to leave this message with the men in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I want you men. I want every man to know this, that it is okay. Whatever you've gone through, whatever you've been through, it is okay to allow yourself to feel every emotion, every hurt, every bit of it. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
to express that, whether that's in tears, whether that's in words. It is
Mm-hmm.
okay. It is not weak. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make you less of a man. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, it makes you a man. You are built. You are created with emotions. Just like when we're created with emotions, you were created with emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to reach your full bloom as a man, you've got to be able to manage those emotions. And a part of managing that is being able to express them and let them out and not let it bottle up inside of you and come out in ways that are not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You want those emotions to come out in ways that are healthy. So talk. Find men in your circle of influence that you can talk to and be real with, who will provide a safe space. And if you don't have that, as I said, my information is provided. If you just want to reach out, just want to talk, we go for coffee, we talk on the phone, we can jump on a Zoom, whatever. Know that there are men out here who have been there, who know what you're going through, and there's a safe space. If not within your circle, there's a safe space right here with this guy right here who's been through hell and back, but I'm still here.
Right.
I've cried more tears than you can imagine, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
still here. All right. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make me less of a man to do those things, but it's because I've done those things that I'm able to speak in a place of triumph, not tragedy, and not still being held down by the strongholds of the things that have happened to me in my past.
Mm-hmm. Powerful. Please give us your email address again.
Well, there it is on the screen. So my email, dwayne.a.beckford@gmail.com. Also, if you're looking for me on social media, my name, Dwayne, with my staging prophecy. So Dwayne Prophecy Beckford-Allen. You'll see that on Facebook. On Instagram, I go by Only One Prophecy. So ONLY, the number one, PROFECI. That's my personal page. My arts page is at Prophecy Speaks. So PROFECISPEAKS, Prophecy Speaks. And then for those who are looking for financial literacy training or financial advice, my business page is IAMWFG underscore Dwayne Beckford. So it's a pleasure to speak with anybody on any level.
Mr. Beckford, thank you so very much. I would like to take this opportunity to again welcome our audience from near and far, and just to again reiterate that the Now Talk Show is sponsored by the Alabaster Wellness Clinic, where we offer services from clinical counseling to integrative medicine and trichology. So it's also a safe platform as well, should you need additional, a safe place to have different services that helps the mind, body, the soul, and also spirituality as well. Mr. Beckford, thank you so very much for your time. And I, again, thank you for being a part of the Now Talk Show.
It was my pleasure. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for me.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, which is the most important thing that you could have given me today. Have a good evening or have a good morning. Again, thank you for joining us on the Now Talk Show. I'm Dr. Nadine Wong.